Esteemed colleagues, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear students, I warmly welcome you all to the last session of this online lecture series entitled Sufism and Supra-Rationality, the Cognitive Aspects of Islamic Mysticism. My name is Reza Dagestani, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher and a lecturer at the Center of Islamic Theology at the University of Münster. I had great pleasure and honor to organize and to moderate this online series of lectures, which we started on the 28th of March with the opening lecture given by Associate Professor Dr. Shafiq Awail from University of Nizwa, and then following by others very interesting and enriching lectures of Dr. Mukhtar Ali from the University of Illinois, Professor Dr. Cyrus Ali Zargar from the University of Central Florida, Associate Professor Dr. Aludamini Ogunake from the University of Virginia, and Associate Professor Atif Khalil from the University of Lethbridge. By the way, all the lectures have been already uploaded on the website of our Center for Islamic Theology of University of Münster for all of you who weren't able to join the lectures live. So it is my great pleasure to introduce you our last speaker in this lecture series, Dr. Reza Tabandeh, who will give a talk on Ni'matullah Sufis in 18th and 19th century and discuss the relationship between exoteric and esoteric knowledge. But before Mr. Tabandeh starts with his presentation, let me briefly introduce him. Mr. Reza Tabandeh earned a PhD in Islamic Studies in the Institute of Arab and Islamic Studies at the University of Exeter. He is currently teaching at Brock University after he was a visiting lecturer at the University of Toronto, York University in Canada, and University of Bradford in the UK. His postdoctorate research at the University of Toronto was about the law of people of the house and its philosophy and beliefs practiced by Sufi masters during 12th and 15th century. He is currently a researcher on Islam and Sufism in the Brock University. So after the presentation, we will have, as usual, about 20 to 30 minutes maximal for questions and answers. And you can either use the hand option at the bottom, or you can type your questions in the chat, and I will read them to our speaker. Without further ado, it is my great pleasure now to invite Dr. Reza Tabandeh to share with us his talk, his presentation, and I'm wishing us all an enriching and exciting lecture. Dr. Tabandeh, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Al-Dagestani for his invitation, and it is truly an honor for me to participate in this esteemed lecture series. Today, I will be discussing the eponym of Ni'matullah Gunābādī order, Mullā Sulṭānmuḥammad Gunābādī, who is also known by his spiritual title, Sulṭān Alī Shāh. He was a remarkable figure in the history of Persian Sufism and Shi'ite mysticism. His influence is recognized not only by his follower, but also by non-Sufi Shi'ite seminary scholars who acknowledge his significant impact on the Shi'ite world, particularly through his tafsir. And there are several references to this. One notable contemporary Shiite theologian and cleric, Allāmah Hasanzadeh Amoli, who passed away in 2021, is also known as an Allāmah with mystical tendencies and has referred to Tafsir Bayan al-Sa'adah as one of the most important mystical tafsir. This highlights the enduring legacy and profound influence of Sulṭān Alī Shāh in the realm of Shiite mysticism. The subject of my talk, knowledge and pseudo-knowledge, has been a controversial topic and a significant point of discussion among theologians and ulama in Muslim madrasas throughout Islamic history. and especially within Shiite tradition. In Shiite history, it has always garnered the attention of Shiite seminarians, particularly during the Safavid and Qājār eras, with the latter ruling Persia from the 18th century to the 20th century. They consistently explored the relationship between knowledge and faith across various fields of religious sciences, including exegesis, theology, jurisprudence, and philosophy. The concept of ilm, or knowledge, and its counterpart, shebh ilm, meaning either pseudo-knowledge or pseudo-science, are central themes in the Quran and Quranic sciences. God is referred to as the knower or the all-knower in the Quran, and human beings as his vicegerents of God on earth possess a relative level of knowledge. Sufis have extensively explored the topic of gnosis and knowledge, often emphasizing the contrast between formal knowledge, ilm, and mystical knowledge, ma'rifah. In Sufism, there are some important concepts that are directly related to knowledge, or more accurately, they represent the true essence of knowledge. For instance, the concepts of intellectual knowledge and intuitive knowledge are central to the writings of many Sufi authors throughout the history of Sufism. A brief introduction to Ghazali and his influence would be apt here. So prior to the establishment of Safavid dynasty as a Shiite Muslim empire, Al-Ghazali, who passed away in 1111, had already laid the foundation for the discourse on knowledge in his seminal work, Ihya Ulumuddin, the revival of religious sciences. In this influential text, Al-Ghazali categorized the various sciences of religion and emphasized the true essence of Quran and real knowledge. This book is among the most influential books in Islamic thought, significantly impacting numerous Muslim mystics, thinkers, scholars, and philosophers. Notably, prominent figures like the 12th, 13th century mystic and theosopher Muhyiddin ibn Arabi, and the 13th century Sufi poet Jalal-ed-Din Rumi were deeply influenced by Al-Ghazali and engaged in the discourse on what constitutes true knowledge versus pseudo-knowledge. Rumi, in his Masnavi, eloquently explores this theme, as I am quoting it. Astronomy and science on top of this, knowledge of medicine and philosophies, all of which link to this world that they live in and have no power to reach the seventh heaven. All knowledge useful to construct a stable, the life support of every cow and camel. The giddy ones call them their mysteries, since they prolong the life of beasts like this. Knowledge of God's past and his place is known by owner of mystic hearts alone. In composite form, he made in this fashion animals who have knowledge too as ration. He called this group of people cattle-like, for how can sleep and walking be alike? Animal spirits know just sleep, for they invert their own senses, but that day, when waking comes and sleep will finally end, they will learn all from the tablet, my dear friend. Just like the senses of a sleeping person, when he awakes, he will notice their inversion. He is the lowest of low. Forget and leave him. Do not love the ones that set. The question of knowledge became pivotal in Muslim societies, from madrasas to Sufi lodges. Returning to Al-Ghazali, his influence extended into the Safavid era, affecting many Shiite mystics and philosophers, like Mullā Ṣadrā being one of them. It is widely accepted among mystics, theosophers, and Sufis that any science not leading to the knowledge of existence, the knowledge of truth, and the path to salvation and union with God is considered pseudo-knowledge. Despite its appearance, pseudo-knowledge is not the true knowledge. Although Ghazali and these mystics are not the primary focus of my thought, it is important to mention them to you in this introduction to provide context and depth to our discussion on knowledge and pseudo-knowledge. Let's discuss the Safavid era briefly now to understand their role in development and definition of knowledge. After Al-Ghazali's time, when Safavid rose to power, they became the first Persian ruler to unify Persia as an empire after its conquest by the Arabs. The Safavids also established the first Shi'ite empire, leading to a flourishing of Persian culture, as well as Shi'ite theology and philosophy. In their seminaries, the fundamental question of what is knowledge, what is real knowledge, and what is false knowledge became central to scholarly discourses. Shiite mystics of that era, such as Fayḍ Kāshānī, Mullā Ṣadrā, Mir Fendereski, Shaykh Bahā'ī, and many other Shiite mystics and alim began to emphasize the importance of religious knowledge even more. You may wonder why this was particularly significant during this era. The reason lies in the history of Shi'ism. During the Safavid era, Shah Tahmasp, the second Safavid king, invited Shiite scholars from Jabal al-Amel of Lebanon to Iran to contribute to their seminaries and oversee the religious matters of Persian society. These scholars were primarily experts on exoteric seminary sciences like fiqh, jurisprudence, and Kalām, theology, which prevails over mysticism or irfan. As a result, a scholar with mystical tendencies, such as those mentioned above, felt a pressing need to emphasize the esoteric and mystical aspect of knowledge, which they believed to be the essence of true knowledge. Shaykh Bahā'ī, a Sufi Shaykh, Shiite jurist, Shaykh al-Islam, cleric, and mathematician, asserted that there is no science other than the science of love, ilm āshiqī. He contended that all other seminary sciences, such as fiqh, tafsir, Quranic exegesis, and hadith tradition of the Prophet, are meaningless without the science of love. According to Shaykh Bahā'ī, these sciences are worthless without the science of love. And similarly, Mullā Ṣadrā, known for his mystical view, discussed the nature of knowledge extensively in his work. In his treatise of Asl, Three Principles, which is kind of his spiritual autobiography, and in the introduction to his major work, Asfar, Journeys, Mullā Ṣadrā placed significant philosophical and mystical emphasis on the concept of knowledge and ilm tawhidi, monotheistic knowledge. These scholars stressed the reality of knowledge to dispel any doubt about true knowledge, which they identified as esoteric knowledge, attainable through esoteric practices and spiritual striving. Their contribution to underscore the importance of inner mystical understanding as the true essence of knowledge, differentiating it from mere exoteric or superficial learnings. Now I would like to make a note about Qājār, which is the era of Mullā Sulṭānmuḥammad. The role of Qājār in the formation of the cultural and religious identity of Persian is foundational. This discussion on knowledge and pseudo-knowledge cannot be completed without mentioning the Sufis and mystics of Qājār era. During this historical period, inherited from the Safavid era, Sufis greatly influenced the discourse on real knowledge, which became a primary concern among religious scholars and mystics. The topic and discussion continued in seminary schools. About 2 centuries after Safavid, when the Qājārs came to power, Persia witnessed the solidification of religious sciences, as Shi'ite seminaries saw the emergence of numerous great scholars and theosophers. However, during this era, Shi'ite seminary scholars sought to establish their authority independent of state to avoid the bitter experience associated with the fall of Safavids. The majority of these scholars were fuqaha, focusing on jurisprudence and emphasizing the exoteric law of Shi'ism. Consequently, this era saw the dominance of fiqh jurisprudence in Shi'ite seminaries, with the Usuliyun emergence as the main and dominant school of thought. However, these Usuli scholars viewed certain groups, such as Akhbari scholars and Sufis, as their rivals. To solidify their authority, they began to persecute these groups and perceiving them as a threat to their social and political power. So as you can probably see, the dominance of fiqh thought during this era rendered religious sciences highly exoteric, and the question of what constitutes real knowledge or true science became a central concern in seminaries. Many scholars and mystics emphasize this subject, striving to clarify and defend the essence of true knowledge amidst the prevailing focus on jurisprudence. Now, among these mystics and scholars, Mullā Sulṭānmuḥammad Gunābādī, known by his spiritual title Sulṭān Alī Shāh, who passed away in 1909, stands out as a significant figure. He is eponym of Ni'matullahi Gunābādī or Ni'matullahi Sulṭān Alī Shāhi Sufi order, a branch of broader Ni'matullahi order. Around a century prior, Persia experienced a revival of Sufism after centuries of dormancy. This revival began during the Zand in the mid-18th century and continued through Qājār era. As Zarinkub noted, the Qājār era was marked by nostalgia for a noble past. The mystical philosophy of that time had to align with the theological standard of Shi'ite society. 2 leading Sufi orders in this revival were Ni'matullahi's and Zahabi Sufi order. Both orders emphasized on the importance of adhering to Islamic law and Shiite beliefs and were known for propagating Ibn Arabi's philosophy in Persia. Despite facing inquisitions from Shiite clerics, these Sufis aimed for survival. Even today, the Gunābādī or Sulṭān Alī Shāhi Sufi order remains one of the most populous Shiite Sufi order in Iran. So let's return to Mullā Sulṭānmuḥammad Gunābādī or Sulṭān Alī Shāh. Please know that going forward, I will refer to him by his spiritual title, Sulṭān Alī Shāh. The Gunābādī masters with Sulṭān Alī Shāh as the most intellectually eminent and charismatic played a pivotal role in development and revival of Sufism through their literary contribution and esteemed social status. Sulṭān Alī Shāh was instrumental in reshaping the perception of Sufism as synonymous with Shi'ism. This allowed subsequent Gunābādī Sufi masters to assert their connection to the historical lineage of 12er Shi'ism and Sufism, merging the 2 traditions in principle and in many aspects of their past and prominent figures. Sulṭān Alī Shāh was a significant figure in reviving the concept of ilm ḥaqīqī or real knowledge in his teachings and writings. He emphasized the distinction between real knowledge and pseudo-knowledge, making him one of the first Shiite Sufi scholars of his time to focus on this topic. The central theme of his philosophy, beliefs, and writing was Walaya in its Shi'i and Sufi sense. He believed that Walaya creates the enlightenment necessary for a complete understanding of knowledge, bringing the heart to the enlightenment that constitutes real knowledge. So let's dive into the life of Sultan Ali Shah, a figure whose quest for deeper spiritual and intellectual understanding shaped his remarkable journey and contribution to Sufism and Shiite mysticism. Sultan Ali Shah was born in a village of Beydukh on suburb of Gunābādī on September 23, 1835. His father disappeared when he was young, leaving no trace. Sultan Ali Shah worked while studying in an unstructured matter until the age of 17. He subsequently relocated to Mashhad, where he established himself at Mirza Jafar madrasas. There, he delved into advanced studies of fiqh and usul, dars kharij, concluded his academic pursuit with Quranic exegesis, hadith, and ilm al-rijal. Despite his extensive studies, he felt a deep thirst for reality that these sciences could not quench. Hearing about the great theosopher of the age, Haji Mullā Sabzawari, Sultan Ali Shah moved to Sabzawar in search of a real esoteric knowledge. Under Mullā Hadi, he became well-versed in Islamic philosophy, Shiite philosophy, specifically Ṣadrā and the philosophy of Mullā Ṣadrā. However, his study with Mullā Hadi did not satisfy him. According to Sultan Hussein Tabandeh, Mullah in his book Nabaghe Ilm wa Irfan, Mullā Hadi Sabzawari directed him to a Ni'matullahi master, Muhammad Kazim Sa'adat Ali Shah, who initiated him into Ni'matullahi order. Due to his spiritual ability, Sa'adat Ali Shah authorized Sultan Ali Shah to provide spiritual guidance, inculcate zikr to seekers on 1868. In 1876, following Sa'adat Ali Shah's death, Sultan Ali Shah was appointed as his successor. Sultan Ali Shah became very popular, which intensified clerical hostility towards Sufism. His village became a center for Ni'matullahi Sufis, where he also continued his religious discussions. He authored more than 10 books, with Tafsir Bayan al-Sa'adah being his magnum opus, published in 4 volumes. Unfortunately, the conflict with Sufis eventually led to his assassination in 1909. Let us now discuss Sultan Ali Shah's contribution and his philosophy. Sultan Ali Shāh Gunābādī was a great seminary scholar, as Dr. Alessandro Cancian in his great book about Sultan Ali Shah says. Sultan Ali Shah was a Neoplatonic philosopher and a religious scholar. Despite his vast knowledge in fields like astrology, medicine, his mystical interpretation of Quran is widely known among Shiite scholars. He was recognized as the master of Ni'matullahi Gunābādī branch of Sufism, bringing novel mystical views crucial for reviving the meaning of real knowledge. He believed that real knowledge transcends fiqh, jurisprudence, and Kalām, scholastic theology. As we all know, in Shi'ism, ilm is a paramount of importance. Early Shiite texts highlight a unique dimension of ilm compared to early Sunnism or rationalist Shi'ism. In the most important Shiite hadith compilation, Al-Kafi, there is an entire book on the value of knowledge and the book on intelligence and knowledge. These texts, along with other early Shiite compilation, underscore the significant knowledge. Numerous hadiths narrated from 6 Shiite Imam Jafar as-Sadiq discuss aql, intelligence, and knowledge. In mystical tradition, ilm is intertwined with aql. Aql is seen as a spiritual faculty capable of intuitively comprehending a spiritual truth. Ilm is regarded as a sacred knowledge, acquired through the sacred intellect via intuition or inspiration following initiation into the wilaya of the imams. This knowledge involved grasping the esoteric meaning of the whole, encompassing both general and specific aspects while maintaining relevance to various exoteric religious sciences. Sultan Ali Shah, well-versed in Sufi, mystical Shi'ism, and Shiite Sufi texts, emphasized this concept of knowledge throughout his work. Sultan Ali Shah's writing frequently explored the notion of knowledge, often using the term ilm instead of ma'rifah. This preference aligned with the terminology used by other Shiite theosophers and scholars of the school of Isfahan. His magnum opus, Tafsir Bayan al-Sadeh, is a unique Shiite tafsir that provides a mystical interpretation of Quran. In works like Sa'adat Nameh and Majma' al-Sa'adat also, he investigates the reality of knowledge, distinguishing between esoteric and exoteric knowledge, and emphasizing the importance of intellectual and intuitive knowledge. Intellectual in a sense that I explained before. One of Sultan Ali Shah's main argument is that spirituality and real knowledge are inseparable. Real knowledge allows one to discover the hidden meaning of Quran, a concept inherited from earlier Sufis. He reconstructed Mullā Sadra's ontology by linking knowledge to the spiritual transformation of the knower. He also drew from the traditions like those of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, emphasizing multiple levels of understanding in the Quran. For Sultan Ali Shah, knowledge without wilaya is meaningless. Wilaya illuminates the heart, leading to the true understanding. Sultan Ali Shah distinguished between true knowledge and ignorance that resembles knowledge, al-jahl al-mutashabbih lil-ilm. He believed that true knowledge requires spiritual insight, basira, and is a continuum of intensity akin to existence itself. Lower levels of knowledge lacks awareness of reality, while higher state reveals truth. He emphasized the importance of proper use of human faculties to serve the Imam of the time, which he equates with possessing intellect or inner prophet or inner Imam. He clarifies that his discussion on the topic like kashf, revelation, shuhud, spiritual witnessing, and afat nafs, calamities of carnal soul, were based on intuitive knowledge received through wilaya. He considered seminary sciences without this intuitive knowledge worthless, asserting that a faqih or a faqih or a religious scholar must possess a spiritual and intuitive knowledge to guide the community effectively. In conclusion, I would like to conclude by saying that Sultan Ali Shah was deeply rooted in the rich tradition of Sufism and had a strong background in a key philosophical and jurisprudential aspect of Islam, and especially in Shi'ism. He emphasized real knowledge as esoteric and spiritual, attainable through the walaya of Shiite Imam, and in their absence, through Sufi masters authorized to guide seekers. This esoteric knowledge forms the foundation of all other sciences, making them meaningful. His critics of pseudo-knowledge primarily, it is really important. Because he knew medicine and he knew other sciences, but his critique of pseudo-knowledge primarily targeted seminary scholars and ulama focused solely on exoteric religious sciences. I hope this discussion was enlightening for you. Thank you for giving me your time and letting me to share my findings with you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tabandeh, for your very informative, very nice talk, which gave us, I think, also a nice overview of this dynamics, I would say, of this relationship between ilm and pseudo-ilm, and also insights in the framework of Sulṭān Alī Shāh, in which he elaborates on this kind of things. I will just stop.